Listen to this sound. A high, steady scream stretched out like a generator trapped inside a steel body. That is the F40PH, a passenger diesel locomotive so famous people gave it a nickname of its own, Screamers. But it does not scream for show. It screams because it has to do two jobs at once: pull the train and power an entire line of cars, lights, air conditioning, heating, through head-end power. In the 1970s, Amtrak needed a reliable pack horse, so they took the GP40 freight platform, wrapped it in a full-width body, adjusted the gearing for speed, and let the EMD 645 V16 run at a stable high RPM. In this steam engine episode, I will tell the 50-year story of the F40PH through its sound, its roots, and the variations that have kept it alive to this day. F40PH, the sound of a devoted butcher. Hear an F40PH pass by, and you recognize it instantly. A high, steady, razor-bright note that does not step up and down with throttle the way other locomotives do. The nickname Screamers was born from that sharp voice. But do not get it wrong, it is not screaming to look cool. It is the price of a practical problem in 1970s American railroading. Head-end power, HEP. High stable electricity for air conditioning, heating, and lighting across an entire consist. The main engine has to hold a high throttle notch almost continuously to spin the generator. The F40PH is both a road locomotive and a mobile industrial generator, so it has to keep that working growl like a butcher bracing through non-stop labor. The F40PH's foundation is just as tough and weathered. Amtrak took the work-ox underframe of the GP40 freight locomotive and wrapped it in a streamlined cowl unit body for high-speed running. Inside sits the EMD 645 V16, a power plant famous for taking punishment, willing to run in notch 8 for an entire long trip. When an F40PH is sitting at a station, the engine still holds that high note. It sounds like it has never learned the concept of rest. In return, passengers get a small city of comfort inside the cars. From this pull and generate at the same time equation, the F40PH stepped straight into history as the soul of the busy Northeast corridor. (1976). The first F40 rolls out, then goes straight onto the busiest line in America. In March 1976, the first F40PH units in the 200 series left the production line in LaGrange, Illinois. This was not the kind of locomotive that is born and then parked in a yard. Just 1 month later, on April 9, 1976, the first unit entered service on the Northeast Corridor, running between New Haven and Boston, one of the busiest passenger rail corridors in the United States. Think about it. A brand new locomotive, paint still fresh, is thrown onto a line where one missed beat can ripple through the entire schedule. And it held rhythm. Back then, the F40PH was like a rookie soldier tossed straight into the harshest battlefield on day one. No time to get used to it. It had to haul trains on time in every kind of weather, through crowded stations, and still keep HEP stable so lights and air conditioning would not flicker. The engine screamed the entire trip evenly. Some first-time listeners flinched. But that very sound became reassuring in a strange way. It said the RPM was right, the electrical system was stable, and the train was alive. At first, Amtrak assigned the F40PH to intercity routes in the Northeast and also to the San Diegan route in California. Then, quickly, once it proved itself, others wanted it too. You can feel that in how the story expands, from a batch of 30 units into an entire era. And the next name to enter is Chicago. Chicago, where the F40PH became the go-to work machine of an entire city. Chicago does not love machines because they are pretty. Chicago loves machines because they are on time. When the Regional Transportation Authority put its first F40s into service in September 1977, it felt like the city had found a durable pair of rain boots. No need to shine, just get through every day. Commuter trains here are heavy, crowded, and run the same cycles morning and evening inside the city's daily rhythm. And the F40PH fits that world in a strangely perfect way. It screams steadily, holds HEP stable, and pulls long consists without needing to build momentum. Each departure, the sound thickens, then settles back into its held note, like a worker who knows the job by heart. Under the Arte and then Metra, Chicago eventually had more than 115 F40s, second only to Amtrak's fleet of about 216 units. That number says one thing plainly. This was no longer a new locomotive model. It became the backbone of an entire commuting system. Daily riders may not know the EMD 645 name or the gear ratios, but they recognize the familiar scream every morning. It became the city's background sound. Hear it, and you know the train is coming. You know you can still make it on time. Good news travels fast. When other states saw the F40 running well in the Northeast, they started opening their wallets too. From New Jersey Transit to MBTA in Boston to Caltrain to Geo Transit to Via Rail Canada, the F40PH showed up as a familiar face on many different lines. But because of that scream and the fuel burn, operators began wanting something else. Quieter, more efficient. And Boston was one of the first places to demand it. Boston demands quiet, separating the generator so the F40 screams less. Boston is where noise became a real problem. An F40PH sitting at a station is sitting there, screaming. Because HEP is taken directly from the main engine, the V16 has to hold high RPM to both pull the train and power the cars. With dense commuter schedules, crowded platforms, and homes close to the tracks, that scream was no longer a signature. It became exhausting. MIMTA wanted another way. Power the cars without forcing the prime mover to shriek all day. EMD heard that demand loud and clear and delivered a hands-on mechanics answer. Add a separate generator. That is how the F40PH-2C appeared. From the outside, it still looks like the familiar F40, but the frame is longer to fit an added HEP generator set. The idea is simple and effective. The prime mover no longer has to hold high RPM just to feed electricity. Noise drops, fuel burn drops. Station environments feel easier to breathe in. EMD built 23 units for the MBTA in 1987 to 1988. This was an important shift. The F40 remained a pack horse, but it began to be tuned for the times. Less screaming, more economical. A small question for steam engine viewers. Do you prefer the original loud screamer F40 or the separate generator for quieter running version? Leave one choice in the comments and the team will prioritize a deeper dive into the version you like in the next episode. By 1992, EMD removed the F40 from its product catalog to focus on the F59. But the F40 story did not stop. Metra still received a run of F40 PHM-2 units with a very distinctive slanted windshield. And then the rebuild market stepped in to extend the life of this model for many more years. (1992) was not the end. Metra Winnebago and that Chicago character. In 1992, EMD officially closed the book on the F40 line in its production catalog to focus on the newer F59. On paper, that was the end. But out on the rails, the F40s kept grinding on, refusing to rest, especially in Chicago. Metra trusted the pack horse so much, it ordered the final batch under a special designation, the F40 PHM-2, with its signature slanted nose. Rail people see that backward-leaning windshield and immediately use the nickname Winnebago. It looks like it is pulling its hat down against Lake Michigan wind, quietly dragging commuters day after day, not caring how long ago the manufacturer stopped building them. These Winnebagos do not need museum-style nostalgia. They live on performance. Morning takes people in, evening brings people home. Repeat like a perpetual machine. That extreme durability is exactly why the used locomotive market never lets the name F40 disappear. When big manufacturers stopped, specialized rebuilders stepped in to revive a proven platform with millions of miles behind it. Morrison-Knudsen. Keep what's good, replace what's tired. Morrison-Knudsen was famous in infrastructure, but they saw an opportunity. The F40PH was a design platform that had already proved itself, so why not build a new F40 in a more economical way? They entered the rebuild market and released their own version, the F40 PHM-2C. The name is long, but the idea is very real-world. Use a new frame, reuse good components like the prime mover, trucks, traction motors, and more, then blend them with new parts to create a locomotive that feels both familiar and different. Watching how they revived it shows how railroad people truly respect real tools. They do not throw them away just because they are old. Open it up, measure again. Replace what needs replacing. Keep the core intact. MK built 12 units for the MBTA from 1991 to 1993. Then a few units for Tri-Rail, then 5 units for Coaster in San Diego. Each contract was a quiet message. The F40 still has value. Imagine seeing a new F40 rollout. That familiar scream, but the machinery underfoot rebuilt to live for decades more. And the story goes even longer because MK Rail later reorganized, changed names, and still kept building more F40s for new commuter lines. 2006. The last unit leaves the shop and an era shifts. After major rebuild programs by Morrison Knudsen or Motive Power Inc., demand for a reliable packhorse did not cool off at all. They continued building variants such as the F40 PH-3C all the way to 2006, when ACE Unit 3106 was completed. That was the official milestone, closing more than 30 years of production for this line. That moment felt like closing an old machine shop door. Not loud or rushed, but people in the trade feel a respectful regret. The F40 was not just a pile of metal. It was the echo of the North American passenger rail revival era. It was the on-time habit commuters depended on every morning. When the last unit left the shop, it was not a disappearance. It was a transition. Technology moves forward, but the signature screamer sound began stepping back to make room for newer, quieter locomotives. A heroic chapter officially closed and moved into the territory of nostalgia. The F40 still runs, from road locomotive to cabbage guide. Many people think Amtrak's retirement of the F40 in 2002 was the end of the legend. Completely wrong. The F40 only changed roles. Some were cut open and stripped of the V16 prime mover, converted into NPCUs, control units with no traction power, but still leading push-pull trains. Rail people gave them a very everyday name, cabbages. It sounds fallen because they can't move under their own power anymore. But in reality, it is how the F40 stayed on the job the longest. Still at the head end, still guiding the whole train, just without the screaming 645 engine, traded for a quiet, stubborn usefulness to the very end. Beyond Amtrak, real F40s are still working across North America, from Via Rail to Tri-Rail to Metra. Some changed hands to tourist lines like the Grand Canyon Railway. Others went to local services. That is the best ending for a true workhorse, moving from one owner to another. As long as the frame is still solid and the steel wheels still grip the rails, the screamer voice cannot fully go silent. Conclusion. The living legacy of the screamer. No one loves the F40PH because it is quiet. People value it because it will do the work. That sharp scream across 50 years is proof of devotion, pulling the train while feeding electricity to the entire consist at the same time. From its first days breaking into the Northeast Corridor in 1976 to becoming Metra's backbone, the F40 has always been the packhorse that never tires. Today, whether it is still hauling passengers directly or quietly leading push-pull trains as an NPCU cabbage, one thing remains. Hear that voice and you know the screamer is coming. That is the real legacy of this class. It is not locked behind museum glass. It lives in the memory of anyone who has stood on a platform at dawn, waiting for that familiar sound to bring them home. Thank you for joining Steam Engine. See you again at the next throttle notch.